Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen, and with a 23-20 win over the Indianapolis Colts, your Houston Texans have improved to 6-2 on the season, atop the AFC South. Huzzah! All is well. Celebrate good times. Unfortunately, this was another win that felt like a loss because the Texans desperately tried to give this game away, which has been a problem all season long because this team is addicted to making things as difficult as possible. Let's start this week discussing offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, who after last year's performance was interviewed for multiple head coaching jobs around the league in the offseason before signing a contract to return as the Texans OC for this season. Now, through 8 games, I am personally not aware of a single Texans fan impressed by Bobby Slowick's play calling this season. Personally, he drives me completely insane every single Sunday. That toss play in the red zone, which resulted in some sort of weird hybrid fumble interception fucking nightmare, was damn near the final straw for me. Just an absolutely mind-numbingly bad play call when we had a chance to put this game away. And instead, of course, we didn't, because that has become the Texans' biggest glaring issue against teams. We should beat handily, like the Colts. They are completely incapable of closing games out, putting games away, holding on to multi-score leads, and relieving the fans, like myself, of stress. We have to make everything as stressful as possible every Sunday, even when we come away with a win, and we should be in here feeling good and celebrating, but instead, it's tough because there's these overriding issues that overshadow the good shit that happened in the game. And I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know if it'll ever stop. Maybe this is just who this team is, and they're going to make us fucking suffer the whole season through, even as we have a winning record and win the division and make the playoffs. It's just going to be hell every Sunday, apparently. Apparently, this is just what we're doing. This is our style of play. We just let the other team stay in the game, no matter how terribly they are performing and how statistically dog shit they are by comparison. They're right there with a chance to beat us when it comes down to it. And I can't fucking take it anymore. It's driving me insane. Let's go back through all of our wins this season, just to reiterate the issue, because I like to do that. We beat the Colts to open the season 29-27. We beat the Bears 19-13. We beat the Jaguars 24-20. We beat the Bills 23-20. We beat the Patriots 41-21, which was our only comfortable win so far this season that was more than one score. And finally, we beat the Colts on Sunday 23-20. Every single win has been a one-score game, with the exception of the lowly Patriots. And none of those wins, and this is the real sticking point, none of them needed or had to be as close as they were. We let them be that close in every one of those wins I just outlined. The same thing happens every freaking Sunday, and much of that, to me, comes down to Bobby Slowick's conservative at times, bizarre at others, and often inexplicable play calling as our offensive coordinator. Yes, the offensive line sucks at protecting C.J. Stroud, which now everyone in the league is well aware of. They all know that. And as a result, the defenses are constantly blitzing and applying pressure, and we're just like, as I said last week, there is no pocket. Pockets are rare, and C.J. is getting pressured on almost every single play, getting hit on almost every single play, and Bobby has refused to adapt his play calling strategy to get CJ rolling out of the pocket, right or left, either way, where he can find room to actually distribute the ball downfield. And I don't get it. And I do get going into a game with a plan and hoping maybe this will be the week that the offensive line blocks properly. I get that that optimistic viewpoint. But after the first few possessions where you see like, oh, okay, we still can't block for shit, that's a shame, then you're going to have to call some different style plays offensively. Like, you're going to have to change some shit, man. You're going to have to make some fucking adjustments. And it just doesn't seem like we have been capable of doing that on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively this week, we looked like we made proper adjustments. And frankly, the Colts didn't have that much going offensively. Anthony Richardson was dog shit. Again, 23-20 win in a game where I can comfortably say that their starting quarterback was awful. Awful. Inaccurate, incapable of making reads. Not good. And we still won by 3 fucking points in what was the most important game of the season so far, because if we lose our AFC South lead. We were 1 game up on these fuckers. So not making adjustments, not being capable of like applying changes on the fly, it's so weird to me. It's weird to me because of the standard that was set last season, where we had a makeshift offensive line. All these dudes were hurt. We're cobbling together an offensive line every week that somehow, through 8 games, was better last year when nobody was fucking healthy. Somehow it was better last year. And all of the momentum that we had going through the regular season and into the postseason and into the offseason, and then all of these teams calling on Bobby Slowick to interview for the head coaching positions that were vacant. He didn't get any of them, obviously. Re-signs with the Texans, but like that set a standard for our offense and for Bobby that has simply not been met this year. And like through the first few games, sure, everybody starts kind of slow. You're getting back in the groove of things. You're finding your rhythm again. And that applies to both the players and the coaches. I get that. But we're 8 fucking games in, man. He's making the same mistakes every single week with some slight tweaks. But for the most part, the same glaring issues show up on the offensive side of the ball where I'm like, Bobby, what is it that I am not some great football mind. I'm just a simple man on my couch trying to enjoy a Sunday from fucking noon to 3:30. Just once I want to enjoy it. And I can't because this man... he's not seeing what I'm seeing or something. Does he need to be sitting with me on the couch? Does he need to be on the couch? Is that where Bobby needs to be? Bobby? Hello? Fuck. It's just frustrating. There's no pocket, and he won't make changes regardless. CJ is maybe not the most mobile quarterback in the league. We all know that. Okay? He's not. But he's not the least mobile quarterback in the league. He's not terrible on his feet. He's certainly capable of rolling out of the pocket. And if you design the plays that way, then maybe he'll not die. That's the goal. This is the same shit I had to talk about last week, but I just don't get how we're still not seeing any type of strategic improvements on the offensive side of the ball when we know, and everyone else knows, more importantly, that our offensive line sucks. So they're just going to blitz all day and pass rush all day, which gives us some holes for the running game. Fortunately, there's like an upside. But in terms of getting CJ Stroud in a rhythm, in terms of allowing him to feel comfortable on the football field, fuck the pocket, just feel comfortable somewhere. We're not there. We're still not accomplishing that. We didn't do it against the Colts in week 1. We didn't do it against the Colts in week fucking 8. So I don't feel like, I know not much progress has been made through 8 weeks. That's the glaring issue. And a lot of that is falling on Bobby Slowick in my mind. And I'm happy to hear an argument. If you're watching on YouTube, please tell me in the comments why I should blame somebody else. Tell me who's responsible for the lack of offensive creativity at the right moments, for the lack of aggressiveness, for the lack of a fucking game plan that factors in the fact that the goddamn defensive line is on our shit every single play. Whose fault is that if not the offensive coordinator? Whose? Please enlighten me. Because this dude right now, I am so out on Bobby Slowick. Because again, I'm not here to watch us fucking eke out a win against non-playoff teams every fucking week. That's not what I want to see them play at a level that I can go, and that is a team that is capable of getting to an AFC championship or winning a Super Bowl, and it's simply not the case with our offense currently. And it's like, if we're lucky enough to get in the red zone, the play calling issues get magnified. He seems panicky, Bobby. He seems unsure of himself. And he's costing this team points every week. Every single week. The play calling is costing us points. And it's pretty plain to see. And if you think the frustration on CJ Stroud's face is just because of the offensive line, then you're in a better headspace than me, because I think he's also sick and tired of the dog shit play calling. That is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Bobby Slowick, he's going to get a lot less head coaching interviews this offseason, I'll tell you that. Unless he figures out a way to turn things around. This team isn't bad offensively. They're not bad. But they're certainly not good. They're not impressive. Nobody's watching this Texans offense right now going, wow, that's dangerous. You know? And when Joe Mixon is rolling, feed him the football, man. And for fuck's sake, don't toss it to him. What do we do? What the hell was that toss play? Have we tossed the ball a single time this season? And that was on CJ too, just to be clear. You gotta see, like, hey, there's a guy on top of him, bro. Maybe call an audible. Do we ever call an audible? Are there any audibles in this offense? Has anybody seen an audible? Are they aware they're allowed to audible? Or is that not allowed in the Bobby Slowick fucking offensive scheme? What the fuck? Let's move on to CJ Stroud, who was 25 for 37 for 285 yards and a touchdown against the Colts. Not bad. Not a bad stat line, but still just one touchdown pass. And he had a lot of misses to wide open receivers. There were several different poorly thrown balls where it didn't seem like it was a miscommunication or like a route issue. It was the throw. And I think you could see it on his face that CJ knew he missed. And it was his stats could have been and should have been even better than they were, and he was still very clearly frustrated with the offensive line's performance and his inability to find time in the pocket so that he could distribute the ball downfield, which is, again, the issue we've had to talk about every single freaking week. And like I said, CJ took a lot of hits as a result. A lot of hits. Too many hits. Far too many hits. A few sacks, but just not like an alarming number of sacks, but an alarming number of hits. Let me put it that way. Now, it seems like we should be giving CJ Stroud a lot of credit because he's operating with one of the worst offensive lines in football. That is inarguable at this point. That is a statistic fact, a mathematical certainty. He is operating with one of the worst offensive lines in football, which I can't believe I'm still having to say that. And without his number one receiving option in Nico Collins. So he's held us together, and we're still getting wins. We're stacking W's. That's huge. 6-2 is a great spot to be in. But you can't just put it all on his back every week, man, and literally on his physical fucking back, because his back is going to die or break at some point if he keeps taking hits the way he has every week because the offensive line can't fucking block. It seems possible that Nico Collins might be back this week against the Jets, but I would not count on it because we play on Thursday. It's a shorter week. I don't think they want to rush it. The Jets suck. So now, unfortunately, let's say Nico Collins doesn't play on Thursday. Regardless of what's going on with Stephon Diggs' knee, I think it's extremely unlikely that his number 2 receiver, Stephon Diggs, plays on Thursday after that non-contact injury. So it's like now the receiving core is being depleted on top of the offensive line being dog shit. It's even more weight on CJ Stroud, and these younger receivers like Hutchinson, guys are going to have to step up and make plays. And suddenly our wide receiver core is very small and slight in terms of frame. You know, Nico's a huge dude. And Diggs is not as tall, but he's a well-built guy. Tank Dell looks like a hobbit running around out there. And I mean, no disrespect. I think he's an incredibly talented and athletic receiver, but he's not a big guy. None of these other fuckers are that big either. We're throwing the ball to the tight ends a lot is probably what's going to happen. But the point is, Bobby Slowick's consistently questionable play calling, the offensive line's consistently abysmal performance, and the injuries to key targets. The Texans have really not put CJ Stroud in a position to excel, and we are lucky to be 6-2 at this point with 3 nationally televised primetime games on deck, so they quickly need to get their shit straight. This is a short week. Again, there is a lot going wrong still with as much as we have going right. The bad shit feels really ominous. Like, you know, in a scary movie, since it's the week of Halloween, you know, in a scary movie when they build up a scene, somebody's walking through a dark house, fucking hearing noises, and you know this person is about to get got. Their head's going to get chopped off. They're going to be brutally slaughtered by some fucking freak show killing machine that's in the house, right? That's what it feels like watching the Texans at this point. We're not dead yet, but watching this offensive line play, the offensive coordinator's play calling, the little mistakes that keep happening, the lack of discipline, you feel like the kill is coming. And in our case, it's not going to be during the regular season, in all likelihood. It's going to be the playoffs, where all that ominous fucking negative shit builds up to us getting our head lopped off. I don't want to see that. And I keep hoping and praying that we'll see the improvements we wanted to see that we've been talking about all season long. And it's like we keep eking out these wins, but brother, the 6-2 record, it doesn't feel like a 6-2 record right now. I'll get to more on why in a second. Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers all the pre-portioned ingredients you'll need to make easy, homemade meals. All the proteins, veggies, sauces, spices, and more arrive in your box, along with simple instructions that walk you through each step in the cooking process. And if you're like me, relatively amateur in the kitchen, you need those detailed, simple steps that tell you exactly what to do to make it easier than anything else I've ever dealt with in my life to cook. That's what HelloFresh does. From hearty dinners to game day snacks, HelloFresh has a variety of recipes and flavors to perfectly accompany sweater weather, which is surely approaching at some point here in Houston in the near future. We think it's still up in the 90s this week, but we're getting there. And if you're like me, you put all your energy into watching Houston sports, not so much into the kitchen. That's where HelloFresh has helped me out by saving me time, because I don't have to go to the grocery store as often, by saving me energy with simple instructions so my brain doesn't explode, and by making cooking enjoyable and easy because I'm not a freaking 5-star chef. I'm not. I need the simple instructions. I need this stuff to be easy. That's what HelloFresh brings to you. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. Can bangers, get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freebtc, FREEBTC. Applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/freebtc. You can see the URL on the sign behind me, as well as in the description of this episode. There is a link with the URL, with the deal. Click on it. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. So CJ Stroud's performance was solid enough to get us another win. But Joe Mixon was yet again the MVP of this game. Mixon rushed for 102 yards on 25 attempts, 1 touchdown. He became the first player in NFL history to have at least 100 yards rushing and a touchdown run in 4 of his first 5 games with a team, which is a pretty cool benchmark there. Joe, once again, had multiple runs that looked eerily similar to Arian Foster back in the day, and Arian was ironically at this game to watch Andre Johnson's halftime Hall of Fame ceremony. Mixon is a beast out there. Jump cuts, breaking tackles, picking up speed like crazy in the open field. Enormous offseason signing by Nick Caserio. Not enough can be said about this. It probably saved this season from being a massive, massive disappointment. We all saw how ineffective the Texans offense looked when Mixon was out for a few weeks. I mean, this guy has been everything to this team. As much as CJ Stroud meant to this Houston Texans team last season, Joe Mixon almost that much this season. He's right there. He has had to put the team on his back a lot because, as I've mentioned ad nauseum, fucking defenses are keyed in on CJ Stroud and getting to the quarterback, and they're just sort of letting our running game do its thing. As a result, they're not stacking the box against the run. They're lining up to fucking attack the quarterback. And considering how well Joe Mixon has been running, I don't see why he's not getting 30 touches a game. He came closer this week with 25 touches, but several of those were in what should have been considered garbage time, trying to eat clock on our final couple possessions. Look, we are dominating. Dominating time of possession during all of these wins that we have had. We had the ball for more than 10 minutes longer than the Colts did in this game. We had less turnovers. We gave up less sacks. We had a far, far superior quarterback, and yet it comes down to the final minutes of play to squeak out a fucking 3-point victory? What? Just considering the talent of CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon and our receiving core when they're healthy, It's absolutely ludicrous that we are sweating out these games against what should be lesser opponents who we are crushing from a statistical standpoint. Like, you look at the halftime stats. They kept showing Anthony Richardson's stat line in this game. He was like 4 for 18, like 9 consecutive misses. They were just punting, and yet we can't get any momentum on the offensive side of the ball. We can't put up enough points in the red zone. We keep having to rely on Kaimi Fairbairn's leg. It's like, what are we doing? Bury these fuckers, man. Put your foot on the gas. But it's just not happening. I'm happy with another win. Please, don't misunderstand me. I'm very happy to have won another football game. I'm happy that we are 6-2 and atop the division because the alternative is much less enjoyable. But as I've said every single week this season, man, winning the AFC South should not be the bar for this team. It's not what we were led to believe last season anyway. Last season was kind of like, all right, let's see how this goes. Rookie quarterback, rookie head coach. With what we saw and what they're capable of, like the bar should be raised, right? Last year was like, holy shit, if we make the playoffs, that would be really sick. If we won the division, that would be really sick. We did both of those things and got a playoff win against the Browns, which was incredible. And then we got, big brothered by the Ravens, which just kind of was to be expected at that point. They're multiple years into their, attempt at a Super Bowl, the Ravens, and making AFC championship runs. That was like year one for us. But this year, we should be better. And the bar should be the AFC championship. That should be the bar. It's what we were all led to believe the bar would be. And the level of play on the field has not been there. Getting wins, great. 6-2, great. Leading the division, great. That's great. Those are all good things, and this team should be proud of that. But they also have to know that, like, they're not playing at a level to win anything on a level that anybody's going to give a shit about nationally. They're not. Not right now. They weren't last week either. There hasn't really been a week where I was like, now we're doing it. Now, I will say this. Going into halftime, we've talked about this every week. Halftime adjustments have been an issue. This was one of the few games this season, if not the only game this season, where I didn't feel like we came out with a disadvantage in the second half. Felt like the defensive scheme was tight. I mean, the Colts offense could not get shit going. So I don't know how much to attribute this to our, coaching and play versus like the Colts just not being that good and not having that good of a game. But I didn't feel like we were getting crushed in the second half in terms of strategy and approach, which is an improvement from last week where I once again felt like that was a problem. We all know the offensive line has been ass. I don't really have that much more to say about it. It's ass, butt, cheeks, not good. Now, there was a brief spark of hope, which is a sad way of putting it, when Kenyon Green, who was being bullied all day, he was hurt for a bit, had to go to the sideline, was replaced by Jarrett Patterson, who was a big part of our patchwork offensive line last season. But then Jarrett Patterson got hurt, and Kenyon Green was back out there getting steamrolled again, and it was just like, oh my fucking God, we cannot catch a break. And this game was preceded by a week of very enthusiastic and positive talk from D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick saying they saw improvement from the O-line in practice and they were feeling really good about their progress. And then we saw the same old shit again on Sunday at noon. So I don't know what these dudes are seeing in practice. I don't know what they're really working on. Clearly they worked on the false starts. There are less of them, right? There are less of them. Although number 78 did pick up another false start in this one and still leads the league in penalties. But on the whole, the last few weeks, there have been less false starts. Seems like the discipline and the snap count and all that shit has gotten better. They've worked on that clearly. But in terms of like doing the job, the part where you have to keep the man in front of you from destroying your quarterback, it's the same shit this Sunday as it was last Sunday, as it was the one before that and the 5 before that. So I just don't, it's just not good enough, man. Like not protecting the franchise quarterback even close to good enough. Even if you are committing less atrocious penalties, it's like this is still the biggest weakness for the team that we need to see get better soon. Now, please, God, why? Hopefully, we will see improvements against the Jets because this shit against the Colts, this wasn't it. Tank Dell, 4 receptions on 4 targets for 35 yards and a fantastic aerobatic touchdown catch that was reminiscent of Tank Dell during his rookie season last year. That seemed like a really good sign. He still had a couple of plays where he was like in the mix with the linemen where I was like, brother, what are you doing, man? Like, you No, get out. Stay out. You stay away from the fucking pile of big men. That is not where you need to be. You need to be in the open ground, in the running free in the meadow. Don't go in there. That's where they are. You don't go in there. That's how you get your legs snapped. Don't do that shit. But a good game from him. Good game from Tank Dell. Knew he needed to step up. 4 receptions is not exactly some crazy haul for 35 yards. So it's not like he was a game breaker or anything, but depending on what happens with Stephon Diggs and when Nico Collins becomes available again, I mean, we're going to need to continue to see good things from Tank Dell in the coming couple of weeks. Probably most specifically this Thursday. Before going down with a non-contact knee injury, Stephon Diggs was once again the leading receiver for this team. 5 receptions on 9 targets. A couple of those balls were the C.J. Stroud errors I was referring to earlier. 81 yards, 16.2 yards per reception. Long of 49 yards from Stephon Diggs. He once again looked very, very good. The play with his knee looked really, really bad. You couldn't tell if it just buckled and it's going to be a bone bruise or if he blew out something in his knee. He did walk off the field under his own power and seemed to not even be really limping that badly when he was headed back to the locker room. So I kind of have high hopes. As of me recording this, nothing has been released about the state of his injury or his status for this Thursday night football game. I have to assume he's not going to be playing this Thursday, though. And like I said, I don't really expect Nico Collins to be out there either. It'd be awesome if he is, because he changes everything. But the Jets stink, and I think you give those guys another 10 days to get right and get healthy, rather than throw them out there against the lowly Jets. We saw a couple of good catches from Stover and our other wide receiver. His name is currently slipping my mind, sadly, but just we have got to get more going offensively and consistently. The consistency continues to be the thing that kills us, where it's we come out one drive and we look like we're really firing on all cylinders, and then we get down to the 10-yard line and suddenly everything fucking falls apart and we're walking away with 3 points. The next drive, we have none of the mojo that we established in the prior drive and we're punting. The next drive, we look like dog shit still. The next drive, we look good again. And it's where the hell is the consistency with this team? What is going on with the offensive play calling? What is Bobby Slowick's deal? The defense this week looks solid. You had to be happy with the takeaways. I mean, Richardson's inaccurate as fuck. He makes some really bad throws. So it's good to get some takeaways. But injuries have mounted for this team, man, and they're stacking up. That's what happens in the NFL. And it's why you got to take advantage when you have the opportunity and when you're healthy, because when you're not, it gets really, really difficult. So as shitty as the Jets are, I'm pretty sure we opened as a pick'em on the road in New York in the Meadowlands. So it's going to be more this is another game where it's we should win by 20, right? But we're not going to. It's going to be stressful as hell. We could easily lose. It's Aaron Rodgers. You pull a rabbit out of his ass or whatever he does, and they got to be locked the fuck in. It's a short week of practice with a lot of injuries and nagging issues and not a lot of time to improve upon the glaring issues that were once again apparent this week against the Colts, and last week, and the week before that, and the week before that, and the week before that. So as frustrated as I am, to close out with positivity, we're 6-2. We're on top of the division. We've beaten the Colts both times. We have the tiebreaker against them. The rest of our division, the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars, are non-competitive. We should be good, in a good spot to make the playoffs, but this is why I speak to the things I speak to every week, because this team needs to be building towards something more than just making the playoffs. They need to be building toward playoff victory and an AFC championship run, which as of right now, I'm telling you, they're not good enough. They're going to have to get better. Quick Rockets update. Started the season last week. Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün both signed rookie extensions last week before the regular season started. So it felt like the season was starting on a high note with positive momentum and vibes. Unfortunately, the play on the court has not reflected that through 3 games, as the Rockets sit at 1-2 with a bad, and I mean bad, loss to the Charlotte Hornets on Wednesday to start the season. A good win, I guess, against the Memphis Grizzlies on Friday, and then another bad loss. For some reason, I only watched the 2 losses. I didn't see the Memphis game, but the Hornets game was tough. Tough watch. Very bad basketball, where it looked like the first game of the season, and chalk it up to that, right? Very bad loss against the San Antonio Spurs on Saturday, too, though. A game we easily should have put away, and it felt like all the momentum this team had back in like March of last year where Jalen Green was firing on all cylinders and we were sort of looking at maybe potentially pushing for the play-in tournament. Ended up not happening, obviously, but that is all gone. I don't know where it went. Obviously, we've got some new faces in here, dudes that were hurt last year. Tari Eason is healthy. We're waiting on Steven Adams to come into play still. I don't know what's going on with him, some nagging injury issue. But the Rockets have looked pretty shitty so far. Not exciting, not a whole lot to talk about there yet. Still putting the pieces together. I have faith in Ime Udoka. And Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün are going to need to turn into leaders because what you're seeing on the court is still that they're the two most physically talented and athletic players in terms of basketball. But there's no real leadership. There doesn't seem to be like a dude who's going to slap people around if things suck, which to take it back to the Texans for a second, it did seem like CJ Stroud was finally barking at people, which you need that. You know how often in games, just to take it to the GOAT, you'd see Tom Brady like fired up, yelling at somebody, trying to light a fire under his team's ass? It happened really regularly. CJ's never been that guy, and it looks like he's going to need to be because the Texans are soft and fucking slow and not all that smart. So that's that. Anyway, I'm walking away from the Texans. Rockets have not been good so far. Hopefully they get better. We play the Spurs again tonight. I will be watching that one. We need to see the corner get turned quickly here with the Rockets because we're staring down the barrel of Victor Wembanyama dominating our division for a decade. I would like us to get into a position where we are a competitive playoff team before that happens so that I don't lose my mind. That will do it for today's show. Remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available on all of the audio platforms, podcast platforms, as well as in full video on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. If you are watching on YouTube right now, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. That does a lot for our show. Goes a long way to making sure that YouTube uses their little algorithm to show our show to as many Houston sports fans as possible. I would really appreciate that. And on that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. If you got a Texans fan in your life, an uncle that's looking for some content, a brother, a sister, a mom, a friend, anyone you know that likes Houston sports, point them in the direction of my show, please and thank you. It goes a long way to making sure we can continue to grow, get sponsors, and I don't have to go beg for food on the street wearing like a throwback Steve Francis jersey. Support today's sponsor. It's a new one, HelloFresh. You go to hellofresh.com/free BTC. Again, it's in the description of this episode. It's on the sign behind me. Go in there. Get your 10 free meals across 7 boxes. New subscribers only, varies by plan. HelloFresh.com/free BTC. Support our sponsors. If you're an F1 fan, check out Formula Bone, Bolen Media's premier F1 programming, the finest American-made F1 content in the world, hosted by Jared J. Bone Borislow, available wherever you are watching or listening to Banging the Can. Just search Formula Bone with a B in front of one. Bone, hosted by J. Bone, with a recap and a preview of every race all F1 season long. The Ross Bolen podcast is a place you can get more from me. If you're watching The Penguin on HBO, check out Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, Bolen Media's TV and film podcast, also hosted by me and another Houston native, one of my best friends of over 20 years, Barrett Dudley. BolenMedia.com if you want to check out the startup on the whole. I am Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WRBolen, and I will be back next week to discuss how things went with Texans, Jets. Shit, I might do it on Friday if it's really fucking bad. Hopefully next week, though. I've got a busy schedule with all those other shows and things to attend to. Anyway, until next time, H-Town, stay down.